We've not yet suffered the effects of the first virus attack on a computer system that's critical to human life. But with mass transportation, medical and many other public services becoming more and more computer dependent, it's surely only a matter of time. In Scotland, rumours are rife that the poll tax registration has been hit by computer intruders. Exhaustive checks were made after claims that a virus was wiping off every 15th name, replacing it with the details of a fictitious or dead person. The authorities deny any intrusion. Failed virus or hoax, the poll tax software is especially difficult to protect.
In terms of the poll tax computer database, it's extraordinarily user-friendly. Any number of people have access to that, inputting information, handling information, updating information, and the prospect of a miscreant getting into that is very possible.
Government and business are reluctant to admit they're fragile and vulnerable to such threats, frightened either of a loss of public confidence or of setting themselves up as targets for the technopaths who stalk their electronic alleyways. Of all the companies that Dispatches approached, only one, Barclays, was willing to talk at length about the dangers and their very real concerns.
We've had one virus since we started very actively looking for this over the last few years, which was the well-known Friday the 13th virus. This occurred in a small network of personal computers, 10 or 12 systems joined together in a local area network, where we were developing an expert system. We have not only specialist teams who are responsible for security in our computer centers, our mainframe computer centers. We have also specialist teams who deal with hacking. We have a specialist who has written programs to detect computer viruses. We personally have a program mounted in our personal computers that will spot some 200 different known viruses. The problem with that sort of defense is that every time you produce a program to spot 200 new viruses, someone invents a few more for you which you haven't built into defense against. Almost every aspect of our business has a security element, but one can say from that which is measurable that it is in excess of 20 million a year that we are expending merely on making our systems secure. I don't think it matters how big you are, how knowledgeable you are, how prepared you are, you can still be hit by a virus.
Like Goliath being hit by David with the virus as the stone. No one really knows why technopaths write computer viruses. Hitting back at institutions or major companies could be one motive. Computing may start as a hobby and turn into a nasty habit because of resentment, anger or greed. Whatever the reason or lack of it, viruses are being written. They are out there.
The more malicious person will go into a system and seed a logic bomb, the equivalent of a time bomb in the system. If they have the bottle, they will then come clean. They will even go to the victim and say, I've broken into your system. I'm not telling you how I've done it, but this is the result. Then, and this is historically correct, and I have files of affirmed data, then they are either paid off so as not to detonate this bomb, or they are actually paid and taken on the payroll to explain how they achieved their crime.
It seems to me that many people have a complete moral panic about computer crime, and it is really a problem of perception. They feel that if they acknowledge they've had a computer crime, the general public, their shareholders, the city will think that they're not properly in control of their business. And to a certain extent, that perception is a correct one.
Most companies make out they're fully confident of their machines. Many are not. Viruses are one reason. Computer hacking, the unauthorized entry into computer systems, is another. Hacking was once an intellectual game for computer buffs. For many companies, it's now a nightmare. and even the very highest in the land are not immune. Yorkshireman Steve Gold was one of 2 computer hackers who got into the Duke of Edinburgh's electronic mailbox. Suddenly, hacking was headline news worldwide.
We broke in on the Prestel system and we discovered several major loopholes, one of which being that we could break into the system. Well, perhaps breaking into the system is too strong a word. We could log on to the system purporting to be anybody we wished. That could range from you, a lady walking down the street, or indeed Prince Philip, who lives in the house behind me. In March 1985, about 10 o'clock, I got a knock on the front door, and 5 officers of the fraud squad paid a visit, cautioned me, and needless to say I was in a bit of a state of shock, and took me off to Sheffield Police Station, and then the next day took me down to Holborn Police Station. They subsequently prosecuted us under the Forgery and Counterfeiting Act. The idea being that us keying in numbers late at night on a computer remotely over the telephone wire is analogous to printing dud fivers in your kitchen. A bit of a tenuous connection.
Gold was prosecuted by British Telecom. Eventually, the House of Lords found him not guilty of forgery. He was represented there by Alistair Kelman.
They could, for example, have charged them under the Telecommunications Act, where it is an offence to incur charges on other people's account on any electronic system. And that would have been a very simple prosecution. But they wanted, British Telecom wanted to deal with an additional problem. They wanted to stop people going in on computers that were free and using those computers.
If somebody breaks into an aircraft hangar and the owner of the plane finds that there's evidence that the cover of the engine has been lifted and somebody has been in there, I think you would expect them to have to take a lot of time and trouble finding out if the engine is still working properly. Now, it's exactly the same with a complex computer system. The time and expense is often involved just in finding out whether anything has happened. No damage has to have been done for all that expense to take place.
Walsall in the West Midlands, not the likeliest place to find a French Baroness. Barbara Hammett Lebrun, the great-grandniece of American Wild West hero Wyatt Earp, goes unnoticed as she takes her daily stroll. But the Baroness is a most unusual woman. An accomplished painter and musician, she takes a greater delight still in being an accomplished computer hacker.
Hacking is like going into a different world. It's a completely different world. I mean, it's vast, isn't it? Vast. I mean, you can get a number, and from that you get other numbers, and from that you get other numbers, and so you cover the whole universe eventually. You know, it's like looking at the stars, really. It's so exciting. I mean, you start from nothing, really. You've got a machine, you've got communications, you hit a number, you get some more numbers, and you go worldwide.
The Baroness demonstrated to dispatches a relatively straightforward, everyday hack. She's acquired the telephone numbers for hundreds of computers worldwide. These secret and sensitive numbers are common knowledge amongst computer buffs. We've obscured them. Logging on to a switching service computer, the Baroness uses a password she's discovered to connect to JANET, the Joint Academic Network System that links together universities all over the world. On the same hack, she could gain access quite easily to many other academic computer networks which fill her screen. She chooses the JANET News Service. She's in. But she stops at the front door.
Well, I think you are playing a game with the people that produce the programs on the systems. Yes, I do. You do feel you are a poacher, actually. And I don't think it should be made illegal. Because there's a lot of people, hackers, if you like, that know. They know, and they're sensible about these things. You will always get the odd person that will overstep the barrier. Always.
All the hackers dispatches spoke to maintained that they never altered anything in computers they'd entered. But if hacking is made illegal, people like the Baroness could well face prison.
I think originally the perception was that this was an activity that was harmless and was just engaged in by people who wished to test computers for fun. I think that perception is now not correct, and experience on the continent and in America has shown that this is an organized activity, often designed to remove data, to destroy data, and to cause very considerable losses.
Barclays have suffered 3 separate hacks this year that they know about.
First case, we don't actually know why he was into the system, because it merely occurred that when the proper user logged into his system to use it, he found that someone was already there and had logged in, we found earlier from the audit trail, some 40 minutes or so before the real user. And as far as we could tell, and this is always a problem, of course, you're never quite sure whether you found everything, as far as we could tell, nothing had taken place from that particular hacking.
It's not taken long for the thrill of the hack to turn into a nice little earner. The latest designer crime in the city is computer fraud. London's finest are having to learn new skills to follow the routes taken by the billions of pounds that move through the electronic money systems each and every hour.
This year, for example, our monies that have been obtained or attempted to obtain is in excess of £477 million. Our cases reported are up 25%, and our arrests are up 63%. I think you've got to look at the enormity of turnover of money here in the city alone. The foreign exchange dealings, I'm told, are in excess of £200 billion per day. And therefore the enormity of money gives rise to obviously the criminal seeking to steal from those funds. And the majority of these transactions are by way of computer, as nearly everything is these days. And therefore the computer is used as a tool of the criminal to achieve its crime.
Earlier this year, City of London police foiled what would have been Britain's biggest ever robbery. A major international finance corporation had over £50 million actually stolen, electronically, by computer. Fraud squad officers got the money back, electronically, and 25 people are to be prosecuted in 4 different countries.
Together with some of my officers, I attended the institution. They'd had substantial amounts of money, millions of pounds, in excess of £50 million, removed from their system. And it had been distributed around the world in various parcels. And what we did there was that we used the law enforcement agencies around the world, both in the United States, the Far East, and Europe. And as a result, all the monies were saved, considerable evidence was preserved, and in fact subsequent arrest and prosecution of those persons involved.